we're back. Part 2 of the part 1. And we are back, and without further ado, I must also say, I have the power! I wish I did. You know how long I wished I did? You know, it's great that I get to show, we're about to get into our favorite heroes and why we love the movies.
Yeah.
Here in just a second. And I got to show in the same episode my 2 favorite superheroes of all time. Superman and He-Man. And not a lot of people know about He-Man. Well, let me tell you about He-Man. It was a little known animated series. Well, I say little known. It has its faithful fan following, and I was a part of that group. I was a part of the He-Man troop. I'm telling you right now, He-Man, I ate, drank, slept He-Man. I breathed He-Man. I had all the toys. It was an animated series that was a Filmation animated series that was on from like 1983 to 1985 or 86. But I watched all of them. It was incredible. And then I remember when they released the DVD box set and I saw it at Best Buy.
Yeah.
Bought that junk, baby. Oh, heck yeah. Grown man. Best Buy.
So is it good as you remember?
Oh, hell no. It's terrible. When you're a kid, it's like, actually, I really enjoyed it. It was more so fun for like reminiscing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And nostalgic purposes. It was a good series, but you know, it didn't really hold up that much, but that's why I like that they kind of rebooted it a couple times. Kevin Smith did his version of it, which I didn't like everything that he did with it, but the animation was incredible and the action in it was really good. And the fact that he had Mark Hamill as Skeletor, brilliant.
Yeah, that Skeletor voice, that's iconic.
I mean, amazing. I mean, he's the best Joker ever. Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
I mean, gosh. And so that's it, man. He-Man was it was Superman and He-Man. I actually... they were like hand in hand, neck and neck. Like I grew up on both of them at the same time. I first discovered He-Man because of the animated series, and then like either right before it or right after it was introduced to Superman, because my sister and my family they had them on tape, and I got to see. I remember seeing the first Superman on tape. They had Superman 1978 on tape. Then they had Superman. I don't remember which ones. I saw them all though on video cassette. And then the one we talked about.
Yeah.
Quest for Peace, 1987.
Yeah.
And so I mean, this is what I like digested, man. This is what I consumed during those first like 5 or 6 years of my life, man. And it shaped and molded me, which is why I'm such a well-adjusted human adult. Not. But only a little bit. I am. But anyway, so He-Man, I loved it. And a little bit of factoids real quick. It was a fun show. It was just really, really fun because you got these foes, these arch enemies, Nemesis, Skeletor, the Nemesis to He-Man, right?
Yeah.
Prince Adam. And, you know, they're like fighting each other and duking it out. And then at the end of the episode, there's this like lesson for kids in it, and they're like together, like now Skeletor's like, now remember kids, make sure you work together as a team, and He-Man's like, that's right, you heard it from Skeletor, guys. It's like how did I ever? And you know, as a kid, you're like, yeah, we got to do that because He-Man and Skeletor are saying it together. You know what I mean? That was what was so funny. That was what I discovered. You know, watching the DVDs, you know, as an adult.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I ever miss this as a kid?
It's like, ain't he the bad guy?
I know, right? Exactly. I just like took it,
Drugs don't make your
down on
problems
it,
go
you know,
away.
hook, line, and sinker.
They just create
anyway,
more.
so that was my second favorite hero of all time is this guy, and then, and it, you know, it's funny because the order of this was actually an action figure. This was a set of toys before it was ever an animated series. Did you know that?
No.
And then became a comic because of the animated series. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that is.
Different kind of order than what you're used to hearing.
Yeah, somebody must be like, man, that's a cool action figure.
Yeah.
We should make a TV show.
Yep, somebody was like, man, this is cool. Because and it really is well designed.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I got like, I'm not going to talk about the toys I have in the room next door, but I do have a He-Man action figure.
So I wonder if he was inspired by Conan the Barbarian.
I think there is some
Yeah.
of that influence on it for sure. You can see the similarity as well.
Yeah.
You know, everything, it's like you've said before, everything is in some way. We're going to get into the history of comic book adaptations anyway. Everything to an extent is a ripoff of something else.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether you can do it well. Do a nice little spin on it and then make it your own. Put your own signature to it. Make it unique in and of itself.
Yeah.
Without it being just like, well, that's very blatantly that, you know?
Yeah, copy and paste.
Exactly, copy and paste. No one wants to see that.
No.
And, you know, unfortunately, that's what a lot of, you know, the flack that superhero films have gotten because they feel it's copy and paste. And in some cases, it has been, but not as extreme as they've made it out to be.
Yeah.
But let's do this, man. I'm going to ask you first. I want you to take the floor for a minute. Because I'll start the Superman dissertation. I will not be able to stop. And, you know, it will be very irritating to every human being except for myself because I still get in my feels when I talk about it. I don't. What is your favorite hero, man? Tell us about it.
My favorite hero is Static Shock. And my second favorite superhero is Spider-Man. Now, what I did not know is Static Shock was inspired by Spider-Man.
And Static Shock, for the people that don't know, tell us who he is and what he's from.
Static Shock was created by Milestone Comics.
Okay, so not DC or Marvel.
No.
Okay.
And their universe is called the Dakotaverse.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a comic. It was comics with diversity. So you had blacks, Latinos, and Asians.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And
that was sorely lacking during a big time period for sure.
I think it came out in the 90s.
Okay.
But they ended up getting bought out by DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
DC saw the value in that for sure.
Yeah, saw the potential.
That's cool, man. And so that's your favorite?
Yeah.
Have they ever had anything?
It was a TV show.
Can I be annoying, Mike? Can I just do this just a little bit? Thanks. So yeah, that's what I want to know. Was there ever any adaptation of it?
Yeah, it was a TV show.
Okay.
That's how I knew about it. I never read the comics, but
So you and I are alike on that.
Yeah, I grew up watching Static Shock, the TV show.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, like you said, everything come from something. Him and Miles Morales are pretty much the same. Miles Morales' father was a cop that got shot, and Static mother was a cop that died in the line of duty too.
Okay, so you can see the correlations.
Yeah, it's a lot of correlation between, like I said, and they both inspired by Spider-Man.
Yeah, and Spider-Man is your second favorite, right?
Yeah, because when I was thinking about it, I was like, dang, Static and Spider-Man, they act exactly alike. And I was thinking like, dang, they might just be the same character. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's an interesting theory.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying like, you know, same character, but with a different spin on it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of neat. I remember you telling me a little bit about it earlier this week.
Yeah.
Now you unpacked the full history for me. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But you and I are very similar in that regard that I didn't like grow up on comics. We discovered the comics as a result of watching the show, watching the movie, whatever the story was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is how I learned very quickly that I was not fit to be an adequate comic book nerd. I had a comic book phase, man. I did. It only lasted about 2 years. But I tell you what, it was a strong 2 years. And I tried to keep it up. But here's the thing, man. There's just not enough pretty pictures. And when you don't read very well, you don't read too well. you run out of patience and you run out of time. You get bored real quick. I'm just kidding. I was never a big reader. I didn't actually start enjoying reading books until I was an adult. So I was a late bloomer on books. Now, I do enjoy reading books now. Yeah, you want to laugh. You want to make fun of me.
I was laughing because, I mean, comic books and books is kind of two different things.
I know, but how does that tell you? That's how bad of a kid I was. I had no self-control, no discipline, no patience. I couldn't even, read through a comic all the way. And to be honest with you, I had issues with knowing where to read. I know there's some people out there that know what I'm talking about. You may even know. I wouldn't know which box to read first. It didn't spell it out for me. And then I'm reading, I'm like, this shit don't make no sense. I read the box out of order, apparently.
Well, try reading manga, which I read.
You read it backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I remember making a joke about that with somebody I was talking to who read manga. I was like, dude, I couldn't even read regular comics. I sure as hell can't read that. I mean, there's no way. Reading it backwards. So reading it backwards and then trying to figure out the order of the boxes, the captions, Jesus.
Yeah.
There's no way. Anyway, so yeah, but that's how it was. I discovered the world, the wealth of incredible stories that were to be found in the world of comics just from what I saw done on screen.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Comic book stories are, I mean, it goes back. People have been wanting to see these things, you know, manifested on screen, manifested in live action, seeing it actually expressed, seeing this story depicted so that you could somehow connect with it and relate to it. People have been wanting it for forever. I mean, I just did a little bit of research beyond what I already knew. I already knew too much, but I knew stuff. I found out stuff I didn't even know about. I mean, it goes so far back, like comic books on screen. And did you know it goes pretty far back?
I seen either that with Superman or Shazam in black and white.
Yes. Here's the thing. It's funny. It's so cool that you said that. A little bit of history, a little bit of factoids for all y'all out there. The very first superhero on screen was actually a set of serial films in 1941. It was like a episodic. It was a set of 12 of them. They're called serials that they released in theaters, and it was called The Adventures of Captain Marvel. Did you know that Captain Marvel was a DC character first?
Yeah, Shazam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you knew that he was originally called Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
You know, technically DC bought it later. It was it starts with a W, the name of the comics that it was when it was Adventures of Captain Marvel, the series on the screens, on the movie screens, but that was the first thing on screen. And then there was a Marvel tried it too. They did a Captain America serial, I think in 1943. Then there was later in the 40s, there was a Superman. There was a couple of Batman serials and a Superman serial. I keep thinking of like bowls of cereal when I say this.
Thinking about.
I know, but which is not what it is. But so it's been going on for a long time, and I guess the question ought to be asked. We're going to be on the nose about this, and there's no way around it, man. There's no way around it, and it's this. Why do we like this? Why do we want to see it? Besides the obvious, that I believe that we're wired a certain way. We're designed a certain way. You know, it's in our makeup to crave the extraordinary.
Yeah.
Not just for ourselves, but just to see the extraordinary take place. I think it restores or rejuvenates that part of us that has imagination and awe and wonder, which I feel like is, even with this day we're living in where superhero films are a dime a dozen, honestly, let's be honest, I feel like, this may sound crazy, I feel like that awe and wonder and imagination, I think it's plateauing. It got revived, I believe, at certain points in our cinematic history, and we're going to talk about those points, especially at the advent of good visual effects and high quality CGI. There were different points in time where seeing that on screen that would trigger that awe and wonder in us, that kid in all of us, which it is healthy. I think that we all should be more childlike. Not childish, childlike. That's a quality I think that we should strive to have and keep.
Yeah.
I think that when we lose that, I think it may sound crazy, but it's kind of paradoxical, but I believe you can become childish if you don't retain that childlike disposition.
You become a Karen.
You become a Karen. You become a Karen, or you become a cynic. Exactly. So are you trekking with me on this? You with me on this? Like, I believe that's why superhero films, seeing the extraordinary happen, it does something to us. I think we're hardwired that way. There's blueprints in our soul made for it, you know?
Yeah.
And so we've wanted to see it happen for a while. People wanted to see, let's see what we can do on screen from all the way back to the 40s, right? I mean, not long after comics had their heyday. Now, I'm going to give my history real quick to answer the question that I asked you. My favorite superhero of all time is Superman. And I like to believe, I may be off on this, but I'd like to believe that he's my favorite. It has something to do with the fact that he is the OG. Let's make no mistake about it. People on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, we're going to be clear. Superman was the first. He will always be the first. Yes, the Phantom was the first comic book hero, but largely Superman is considered the first comic book superhero of all time because he was created in the minds of Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster in high school in 1933. Then he was launched in Action Comics under DC in 1938. He's the original. He's the original gangster superhero. And I have so many reasons why I like him. Yeah, he's a Boy Scout. Yeah, he's a do-gooder here and there. Yeah, he's invincible. And I don't know why the hell anybody would want to hate on being invincible. First of all, they gave you a little caveat. They gave you a little kryptonite, his weakness. So
Magic,
exactly. And so, you know, it's like, why would you hate on that? It's the whole spiritual parallel. It's the whole coming from another world, savior idea. You know, a God walking among us concept, which I loved.
Yeah.
That was covered. That was part of the literary tone of the screenplay of Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
And even hinted at it in Man of Steel prior to that. But Superman has always been my favorite. When I saw that first Superman as a kid, man, I'll never forget it. I got chills, man. I got chills. I was like, there's a guy who can do that. There's a guy saving people. There's a guy defeating the bad guys, taking out the evil, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, immediately, I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be good. I want to save people. You know, you wonder, you know, then you discover really quick when you jump off the freaking couch and you go splat. I'm not cut out for this hero shit. You know what I mean? So it's like but you want that. You want to be that. I mean, I remember getting, Dory may remember this. Ducey may remember this. Mom, she has a long-term memory still, so she may remember this. You're not so much with the short-term. Bless your heart, Mom. Love you to death. She may remember this. There was this thick red towel. And I'm sure they got pissed off that I did this shit all the time. But I would go in the closet. There was this closet, hardwood pine floor, hardwood pine walls, and this door. And it was like, it smelled of pine. And it was all these shelves and all these towels folded on there. I still have a visual.
Yeah.
That's how much this is branded on my soul. And this thick red towel, I was like, this is the towel, because it was something about it. It was the closest thing I could find that could resemble the Superman cape. And I got this red towel, dude, and I put it around my neck, dude, and I would get I remember I used to have to get, you know, I'm a little kid. I'm having to get Dory's help to tie it around my neck, and I think she helped me with it, and I'd get like either a clothespin or a paper, what is it, a paper clip? Not a paper clip, I guess it's a safety pin. Safety pin or a clothespin, and I put that thing on, and we couldn't find the picture. But there's a picture out there somewhere. I probably set it aside at some point thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That's so bad. But I had it. I had the cape on, but I don't know what this was about. I'd like to think that I wasn't emulating or trying to emulate Superman in this moment. But I had the red towel on as my cape, and I had underwear on my freaking head. What the hell's with the underwear, right, dude?
What is that, Blank Man or something?
I don't know. Before there was even a Blank Man possible, man. All I can think of is that like the underwear was supposed to be like my mask, and the holes where your legs are supposed to go through.
The original Captain Underpants.
That's exactly it, dude. I wish I could find that picture. I definitely would share it on this episode, but that's what it was, man. I just it struck a chord with me. I mean, that brilliant John Williams score, that Superman theme song that will continue to live like in infamy, like timeless sound. You know, I remember when they first started hinting at it. You remember in Smallville?
Yeah.
It was during the last couple seasons, and they started giving you little bits of the notes, little bits of the chords, and then they finally did the actual theme song, dude.
Yeah.
I got chills all over again as a grown ass man when they did it in Smallville, you know? But that's what Superman was to me. He just represented so much. Like, he represented hope, you know? And I didn't even know that. I was a kid. I wasn't paying attention to what the S stood for. I was like, S, it stands for Superman. No, it's the symbol for hope on Krypton. But I didn't know all that stuff. You know what I mean? But Superman, he's always been that guy, you know? So, of course, as soon as it's, you know, there's an opportunity, they're going to try and put him on screen. And they did. There was a serial. There were Superman serials as well. And there was a Superman serial that, actually a Superman film that George Reeve, who starred in The Adventures of Superman from 1952 to 1958, he starred in the actual first Superman on film adaptation. It was called Superman and the Mole Men. I wonder what this mole man looked like. It's some old black and white junk for sure.
Yeah, it probably looks silly.
But then there was, you know, they were trying to do it back then, and that was a huge popular series, you know, animated series. And
yeah.
I bet, I mean, it was huge TV ratings, you know. And then you know, this rich family bought the rights to Superman in 1973. I can't pronounce their names, but then they started, you know, after a bunch of attempts at a screenplay, they hired Richard Donner. Richard Donner wrote the first screenplay and directed Superman, 1978. And then he wrote and directed Superman 1980, Superman 2, which, you know, we had the other Kryptonians in that one, and Zod.
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that one?
They got sent to the Phantom Zone. That's what they call it.
Yep, they got sent to the Phantom Zone, and technically it's very... A lot of people think it's vague, but if you go back and rewatch it, there's a big debate about it because of all these people that said this dumb shit about, you know, Superman and Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, having to kill Zod, even though you can tell he's conflicted about it. He's crying out in anguish. He did not want to do it. You know, forget that part. But all these haters want to talk about that. Well, you go back there and rewatch Superman 2 in 1980, and it looks very close to him having to kill Zod in the Fortress of Solitude. So let's just hush about all that nonsense. Superman's always had to make tough decisions.
Well, people got to understand that Superman was more experienced with his powers than Zod was.
Yes, he was.
Because he just got to Earth.
Yeah, and he tried to warn him in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And I think he did something to that effect in 1982. Of course, he couldn't even reason with him. It was a different idea, the way that he was in 1982. He was both people that played him. I can't remember his name. Oh, my gosh. The British actor. Anyway, it doesn't matter who played him. And then Michael Shannon, who played him in 2013 Superman. They both did incredible jobs. But anyway, I digress. Let me finish this dissertation. It's at least entertaining, right?
Yeah.
So then you got Superman, Quest for Peace, 1987. And then, and I remember, dude, it was definitely not the best of the Christopher Reeve era. But I'm going to tell you right now, I remember burning the hell out of that video cassette. I watched it so much. I remember, listen, I still remember the films. Catch this, Mike. Oh my God, I'm having a moment right now. I still remember the other films that were recorded on this same video cassette that I imagine probably my godmother or my sister recorded. It was a 1984 film, I believe, called Inner Space, with Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. It was on it. And a movie called Blind Date, a very early film that Bruce Willis and Kim Basinger were in about a blind date.
Yeah.
And then I remember Superman 1987, The Quest for Peace, was the last movie on it. And I hated it, dude. I had to fast forward every time to get to it. I had no patience. You think I don't have any patience now? You can imagine me at that age. And so I watched it, just burned that tape out, man. But, I mean, that was the only thing I had of Superman. That was all I knew. And of course, I was curious about the Superman comics because I respected the character. I loved him. He was my favorite. I was interested in anything about him.
Yeah.
Now, I never really got into, I was never really big on the animated stuff. I had my phase, just like I watched He-Man. I watched other cartoons in the 80s, and maybe even early 90s, but I got out of animated stuff. I just wasn't into it anymore. So I didn't ever watch the later Superman movies that were animated or Justice League movies. I just didn't really get into them, you know? Now, I did watch one animated Superman film, which was Superman Doomsday, The Death of Superman.
That was brutal.
It was a great movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was so good, man. And that's why I can't wait for us to talk about the movie, dude, because I know you loved it too. I was so glad to hear you loved it. So I didn't really follow that, but here's another interesting bit of information for you about Superman history. So the last movie was in 1987. So guess what we had? For 19 years, we had nothing. But guess what we almost had? In the early 90s, you'll appreciate this. We almost had, tell me how cool this wouldn't have been. We almost had a Tim Burton Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage playing Superman.
Then they teased that in that Flash
They
movie?
did. They teased it in The Flash. But I don't know if you knew what that was from. It was from that.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
I don't think he'll make a good Superman.
Well, how about the idea of a Tim Burton Superman, Mike, for crying out loud?
I like Tim Burton dark style. You know, it works well with Batman, but
Maybe
come
not
on,
Superman.
not
I just thought it
Superman.
was kind of cool. I don't
Yeah,
feel that
yeah,
strongly
yeah.
about it. But there was that. Then there was actually almost a Wolfgang Peterson Batman vs. Superman in the 90s as well. That never happened. Guess why? Neither of those things happened. Guess why? They weren't meant to be. Because we know what was meant to be, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
And it came later. Let me tell you this. The very first Superman we saw in 19 Years of Silence was in 2006. Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. Little known actor, was mainly in soap operas, daytime soaps. And Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor. Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane. A lot of great characters in it. It was actually a really good film. I remember seeing it. I remember where I saw it. I was on a staff retreat. I was actually on a staff. I was traveling with the job that I had at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see it in theaters while I was on that trip. I was staying in a hotel and I went and I left and I saw it. I actually was able to see it the night it came out. And I'm telling you, man, it was still hitting. I didn't even know who this guy was, but he did a good job. You know, there's all these write-ups and periodicals about and blogs and articles about, you know, that there will be one role that can end an actor's career, and they talk about this role being the one for Brandon Routh, you know, because nobody'd seen him before. And, you know, it was kind of split as far as the critical reception of the film and him as Superman. But the truth is, it performed well in theaters. It made like well over $300 million back
I might
then.
check it out.
If you've never seen Superman Returns, I think you should check it out. I think it's worth your time. Now, having said that, people have mixed feelings about it. I still think it was a good Superman film. And, you know, not to mention when we were 19 years due for another Superman installment. So all this time waiting, all this anticipation, of course it was good. You know, and it had tonally, it felt very akin to the Christopher Reeve Superman films. But see, what people were calling for, it seemed like, which is why it didn't do so well, from what I can surmise, is that people were ready for that darker Superman, that more intense, that more thrilling, that more serious
Yeah.
Superman. And that's why I think it had split down the middle, mixed reviews and mixed reception. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I still enjoyed it. I still love it. I still tout it as a great Superman film. It was life-changing for me. Yeah, I know that sounds cheesy. I don't care. Get over it. I mean, I was a Superman fan. I was due, man. I mean, that's like my superhero crack, man. I was going through 19 years of withdrawals, Mike. I needed to see Man of Steel on screen. So it was good. But let's move forward in time. Are you cool with me still talking? I know I'm talking a lot.
Yeah.
I just been wanting to tell you this, dude. I've been holding back.
Like
man.
you said, I'm gonna let you cook.
And destiny awaited me. Yes, I am being narcissistic enough to make 2013's Man of Steel, written and directed by Zack Snyder. I am narcissistic enough to make it about me and me alone. Yes, I am. That movie was made for me. But guess what? It was also made for all of you that know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know what I mean, Mike. Listen, I remember. I don't usually bring up I've never brought up an ex on this podcast, but I've got to bring it up for this, okay? I remember when it was first announced. I remember hearing, rumblings of there being a new Superman. And then I remember hearing a couple other things. I don't remember all the details. It was real vague. But I remember my work schedule at that time was just constant. And I wasn't as hip to the news as my then wife, my now ex-wife. It's not important. We can all say our stuff about exes or whatever. I got to give the girl points and props for this, man. She did some cool stuff. She knew that I waxed hot for the hero stuff, Mike. She recognized it. I can't tell you how many damn midnight movies from Marvel and DC that I drug her to. And she had to go to work earlier than me, but she was a good sport about it. She fanned the flame of my superhero nerd out stuff. It was crazy, I know, but she was very cool. But she knew what Superman meant to me. I mean, even her family. I give due props. I'm not going to say their name. I respect, all that stuff. But you know who you are. If you ever happen to come across this video, it still means the world to me that you know how much I love Superman and what he meant to me. I used to get Superman apparel and Superman themed stuff from her family all the time. It was really cool. Needless to say, she did a really cool thing. She sent me the screenshot of the first image released announcing the Man of Steel and the man playing him, Henry Cavill. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget. I opened that phone. It was a message from her. I tapped on that image, and I saw that it was that image. You remember that shot where he got hailed into that freaking building.
Yeah.
And then you see him get up, and he's against that vault door.
Yeah.
And there's that image where he's like this right here. I got that shot. It was a still from that shot of the movie, from that scene. And I got it. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so good. So from that moment on, this was like 2009 or 2010. And there were all these delays. You think that this is bad right now, having to wait for May for Superman Legacy next year? No. Try finding out in 2009, that I'm going to have to wait till damn near 2013 for Superman. Do you know how depressing that was? Because I knew it was going to be good. I saw the suit that Zack Snyder designed. It was brilliant. It was cutting edge. It was different. People were craving that different thing. They didn't want to see the flat cotton latex, or not latex, but spandex look. They didn't want to see that anymore. We wanted to see something different. Let's see Superman with a different flair, And he captured that. And yes, folks, if you're wondering, yes, Superman and superhero movies destroyed our marriage. Just kidding. Me being a comic book nerd is what. I'm just kidding. I got to make fun of myself. Anyway, it's funny to think about all this stuff. All this stuff starts flooding back to your memory when you think about it, but I'll never forget it. I got one more little anecdote to share.
Yeah.
I think you're getting the point. I'm a diehard Superman fan.
Yeah.
Followed him forever. He's my favorite. And I do think I give Christopher Reeve his due props. He was revolutionary. He had 4 films. It was cutting edge at that time. And he was a good Superman. He was an excellent Clark Kent. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
But Henry Cavill, easily the best Superman that we've had.
Yeah, this far.
This so far. And I have a lot of hope for David Cornsweet. He looks like he could be a good Superman. He's a handsome guy. It's a good-looking suit. I mean, he could be great. He's definitely a good actor. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. You know, I don't know if you noticed, but that was him in Pearl that you watched the other night. He was the guy that worked at the theater.
Okay.
Yeah. That's him. That's David Cornsweet. Good actor, isn't he?
Yeah.
But Henry Cavill, you know, that's why I was so devastated. All this stuff, and I know that we live in a real world and things happen, but man, I am a Zack Snyder fan as far as him being at the helm of superhero films. I believe everyone's got their opinion, and yes, these things are subjective, but I believe that some of these things are very much objective. They are inarguable. They are just facts. And I think that some people need to get their heads checked, honestly. He was great. He captured a certain tone of not only Superman, but of DC.
Yeah.
He captured that dark, gritty, brooding tone of DC that we were lacking. That's why people were loving it. People were eating it up. I was one of them. Let me tell you how much. This is my final anecdote on this. You see why we got to have multiple parts to this episode.
Yeah.
We hadn't even we've barely scratched the surface. This is great. I have to share this. I want to pause because I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
Let me pause for a second. I do have an anecdote about this Man of Steel thing that I think you'll appreciate, but let me pause and let me ask you your thoughts on Superman, your thoughts on DC, your thoughts on what we've discussed up to this point, and Zack Snyder. I know that you just saw what you...
As far as Zack Snyder, I mean, he does really good movies.
Doesn't he?
But I don't know about everybody else because he didn't direct them all. Right. Now, as far as I heard, the Justice League, not the Snyder Cut, but the Justice League, they had somebody else do it.
You want me to give you a little history on that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So when Zack Snyder did Man of Steel,
yeah,
he was committed. He was spoken for. He was going to be the DC guy. He was doing the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah.
And by the way, a little bit of factoid real quick, but I don't know why we call it DC Comics. Do you know that when we say DC Comics, we're saying Detective Comics? Think about that the next time you say DC Comics. I'm just kidding. We all say it. That's what it stands for, Detective Comics. Yeah. I think it's funny. It's the same thing as like chai, tea, latte. We're saying TT, latte. It's so stupid. These things are so amusing to me. Anybody else out there thought of that before? Okay. Anyway, so he was going to be the guy. And then he did Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, in case you weren't sure about whether he was going to do a Justice League. It's in the freaking title, Dawn of Justice. Kind of self-explanatory, right?
Yeah.
Take it at face value. Well, he does that brilliant film. Brilliant? Was it brilliant, Mike?
Yeah, it
All
was.
right. It was great. All you people, we're going to hush you up. Maybe. I'm just kidding. If you didn't like it, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not against you. I don't understand you, but you're entitled to your opinion. We, on the other hand, we think that it was brilliant. We think that it was a masterpiece. Of course, it wasn't a perfect film, but it was as close to a perfect film of that type as it gets. But, so he does that film. He starts Justice League. Here's why we ended up with this weird, disjointed, kind of incoherent, cut up into pieces, strange tone Justice League that came out in 2017. This is why. He started it, and he had a family emergency. I don't really want to comment on that because I don't want to.
Oh, I know what it is.
You know what it is? Okay.
I seen the video.
So you know. So he had a family issue. So he, obviously we know he had actually started shooting Justice League.
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to do. He had a vision for it, and he was going to execute it. Well, he couldn't do it. So what do? You kind of pool your options. You look in the director's pool, and we've got a list of fantastic. They weren't all great. We've got some failures and I like that Marvel and DC have taken chances on people, that were hopeful, maybe up and coming directors, and they gave them a shot. Some of them didn't do well with that shot, but that's okay. I like that they gave them a shot. But on the ones that did do well, we've got a score of great directors that have accomplished great things. And I think there's no doubting the fact that Joss Whedon did a brilliant job with Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron.
Together.
Two fantastic Marvel films, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like a logical choice. Well, Joss Whedon did good with Avengers. Why don't we get him to finish Justice League? Wrong choice, my friend. Wrong choice. And why was it a wrong choice, Mike? Why do you think?
Well, I mean, it's two different tones.
Yes, thank you. You're not, and you were just talking about this. We were just making a point that Marvel is not. It's a different spirit than DC, to use that term.
Yeah.
It's a different spirit, and not only that, the stories and the execution of those stories, the set pieces, the way that they were demonstrated, the way that he used blocking in Avengers and specifically Avengers Age of Ultron. And I mean, the way he, in a revolutionary way, he was using green screen and blue screen, and the way that the scripts were perfect. The dialogue was great. The humor was hitting. The jokes were landing on both those Avengers films. But that's not going to travel in DC.
Yeah, it's not.
Especially when Zack Snyder is a totally different director. He had a different vision. And I don't really want to blame anybody. I don't even want to give Joss Whedon flack. It was a poor leadership decision. The executives at DC and DC, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, Warner Brothers.
At Warner Brothers, they made a poor choice.
They're the ones to blame.
They're the ones to blame. You can't blame Zack Snyder. You can't blame Joss Whedon. They did what they did. And that's why we ended up with that Justice League. And I mean, I'll be honest with you. I watched it because it's all I had to watch. But you ever see something and you so want it to be good that you almost convince yourself it's good? Knowing good and well that shit ain't good, man. It was not good. And so that's why we ended up with that Justice League.
Good thing I never watched it.
You got spared. Are you glad I told you to ignore that one and watch the Snyder Cut?
Yeah.
The only one that counts. That's why I'm so glad he came back. Dude, Joss Whedon didn't even use some of the cuts and some of the shots that he did. He didn't even use a lot of his material. He had a gold mine there, and he didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
He didn't even pull out the Superman regeneration suit, man.
Well, WB probably told him we wanted to be like Marvel.
Probably.
That's it.
And that was a dumb choice.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the wrong thing. You're at that point, you had a good thing going. You didn't need to compete with Marvel on that level. You needed to do you.
Well,
don't you agree? Agree?
Yeah. But what I seen in the video is they wanted to make billions.
Yeah. And fast. Too fast.
Yeah. And if a movie fell short of that, because I think Man of Steel, if I'm not mistaken, made $900 million.
It was great. So
they wanted to make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So they got greedy.
Yeah. Yeah. And impatient, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the end of it for sure.
Yeah.
But
and they wanted to do a lot of standalone movies too.
I got to tell you, I don't know if he'll ever see this, but Zack Snyder, we thank you for what you accomplished with Batman, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League Snyder Cut. Those things will live on forever, timeless. We'll always have them. It's always going to feel bittersweet because, was it not set up ripe for the picking for you to take that and build off of it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that it's not going to now. It's going to be an entirely different universe created by James Gunn, and I'm hopeful. I like that. I like that it's probably going to be good, and it's no knock on what I'm hopeful about to say that I hate that we'll never get to see what could have been.
I mean, could we at least get a Man of Steel too?
It was supposed to be one. I hate that, man. You know how many people have called for Henry Cavill? Restore the Cavill Superman.
Yeah, they said he went back, and he thought he was going to play Superman.
He was.
And they told him, well, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
It was ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Safran and Gunn didn't have anything to do with that part. He just had to do it. He was, technically he had to do with it, but it wasn't up to him alone. And he wouldn't, James Gunn, he knows the stuff that he said about what Snyder accomplished. They have a very strong mutual respect. Yes, they have different styles, but they both can capture certain dark superhero stories or dark aspects of superhero stories on screen very well. They're very similar, even though they are unique in and of themselves as separate men with different ideas and visions. And they know how to execute their visions, but they've both spoken very kindly of each other. There's mutual respect there.
Yeah.
And I like that. That makes me respect James Gunn even more, who I already liked as a director and as a filmmaker. So it's I'm hopeful about that. I just hate that we'll never get to see, what happened. But I guess I think I should close, but I want to do a couple things real quick. I wanted to see, first of all, God, we haven't even talked specifics about any of these movies, but I've had such a good time, dude. I've been wanting to get this out so much. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you good.
Did you have anything before I tell you this? I'm gonna end with an anecdote about Man of Steel that I think you'll appreciate.
Well, my question would be, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. I've asked myself this question a lot, and is this the ultimate scenarios? Are we doing superhero scenarios without an actual movie scene?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've thought about it a lot. I'm sorry, but if you want invisibility, you're a pervert. That's all that's good for. It's good for other things too, but you know what you're going to use that for. Locker rooms, another shit, you know what I'm saying? Anyway. These days, forget locker rooms. There's going to be a guy sneaking into girls doing their OnlyFans in the middle of broadcast. Hey, you trust that the man who tells you invisibility, trust that's what's on his mind. OnlyFans girls, I'm going to use this shit. You know what I mean? Anyway. Well, I got to tell you, man, ever since I was a kid, it has always been and will always be flying.
Flying?
Yep.
Teleportation.
That is good.
Yeah, have you ever seen that movie Jumper?
Oh, I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Such a great film. Yeah, Hayden Christensen, Samuel L. Jackson, right?
Yeah.
And Jamie Bell. That was so good. Very cool, capturing that idea.
Yeah.
But teleportation, that would be yours?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. What if we could be a team? Teleportation? See, I could fly to where you already got to. But see, if I could fly like Superman, I'd get there. Not as fast as you, but almost.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, we're in the same vein here, Mike. I'll tell you what, before I give my anecdote, let's just do this. Let's give the people this. Let's just share briefly why, our thoughts about, we know there's not much else to say about Man of Steel. It was a fantastic film. I loved it. I felt like it's to this day, the best Superman standalone individual Superman film ever made. I agree. That's what I think. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, even though we couldn't see a Man of Steel 2, we'll never see that. We love you, Henry Cavill. If there was a petition, we would have signed it. But I always want to see something succeed. I always want to see my man.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
You know what I put one time on Facebook? This is so lame. This is about as nerdy as it gets. I actually put Distant Cousins with Superman. I mean, I'm so lame with this junk, dude. Distant Cousins with Superman. I did listen. I said that I listed my superpower was I thought that I had telekinesis, but when I tried really hard to make the object move, all I ended up with was a headache. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, but so Man of Steel, fantastic. But Batman vs. Superman, I thought it was great, man. Did you have anything you wanted to comment on that? Like just your thoughts on it? Like what you liked about it the most? What you think it captured?
Well, it kind of captured like two timelines because you had the
Yes, it did. And it
what was
wasn't
it?
too much. It wasn't too crammed.
yeah, you had the Superman versus Doomsday.
Yep, you
obviously.
introduced that. Yep.
And,
The death of Superman, epic comic
yeah.
book story timeline.
and I guess the Batman versus Superman
Yeah.
in general.
See, and that was not an easy undertaking.
Yeah, and then most people I seen the videos like they did not understand Batman's motives to fight Superman. But to me, his motives is this guy's dangerous.
This guy's dangerous. It was very simple.
And if he turn on us, he can destroy the whole planet. I'm like, what is not to
Absolutely.
get?
It was logical. Now, it wasn't merited, but it was logical. The reason why it wasn't merited and how he got to the point that he was, and this is what people I think missed. I'm sure you witnessed it.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor was puppeteering the whole damn thing.
Yeah,
He
Lex
w-
was a menace.
He was a menace. And dude, Jesse Eisenberg was a great Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he was.
And dude, it's really simple, man. He was manipulating. He didn't get Superman as much as Batman. It was really he was playing all the right chords on Batman, on Bruce Wayne's strings, on heartstrings. He was
Yeah.
pulling out all the stops. He knew every button to press. I mean, what did he say? He said, this guy's anger is ripe. His bitterness is ripe. The rage is ripe. I mean, it was easy. He even admitted it to Superman. He said,
Yeah.
I did this whole thing. I got him ready for you. All he had to do was Superman. He played a little on Superman as well because he kept getting the stories about the Bat Vigilante. He brands them. And then they end up getting killed. And here's what I love about that. There were people that had dumb stuff to say about that. For the first time on screen, you can say what you want about Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck was an excellent Batman to me. I thought he was also an equally good Bruce Wayne. You want to say all you want about the Christian Bale Batman, the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I enjoyed them to an extent, but I was never bought in all the way. I was never bought in. Let me tell you why. First of all, the suit was horrible. His cheeks were fat as hell, man. I'm like, what's going on there? You know? And he still didn't quite have the neck maneuverability like he should. He could, but it still wasn't good. I didn't like the suit that much. And I didn't really like his Batman that well. He was a little bit too weak, and his voice sucked butt. Dude, in the very first movie, in Batman Begins, he used to say, yes, Rachel, somebody's going to rattle the cages. I can't get it out of my head. And he's been ruined for me ever since. He just wasn't a strong Batman. That's my opinion. I did enjoy the movies because I'm a Batman fan.
Why?
We haven't even gotten on Batman yet.
Yeah, Ben Affleck, he was a better Batman.
He was a better Batman, and I had high hopes for him. I'm glad he was at least in Justice League as well. But you had that going on, and for the first time, you're seeing the Frank Miller graphic novel, the gritty, criminal, like dark on crime Batman.
Yeah, this Batman, he was just...
He was hardcore, man.
Yeah, it really was.
Dude, that weightlifting training sequence was badass.
Well, I'm talking about
man.
when he shot that batarang or the bat thing through the dude body.
Woo!
It's brutal.
That was brutal, man. He wasn't playing. I like that they captured that. So it's just back to that filters thing, man. People had this idea in their head, and they didn't even give themselves a chance to go in and enjoy it, take it at face value. I'm willing to bet that so many people would have loved that movie, would have hailed that movie, would still be lauding that movie as a triumph if they had done that. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So it was great for that reason. And you also, it explains the combat. It explains the feud, the motivations. Superman's more mature. He's wise and he loves people. And he's going through all this stuff because Lex has successfully, he's played the minds, he's poisoned the minds of so many. And then you've got these ideas that get out there. You know, you got these victims that were really victims of just haphazard, you know, their consequence of things that happened that Zod caused, not Superman. Superman's trying to stop it. But of course, Superman gets billed as the bad guy. So he's got an internal conflict. And then you kidnap his mother. So what else is he going to do? First, he tries to go over and reason with the man. So then the big showdown comes. And dude, that's one of the most epic superhero battles you're ever going to see.
Yeah, Batman was getting it just handed to him.
It was amazing. And then it was really cool. It was cool. Look, don't get me wrong. I hated to see it. I mean, and obviously we know Superman would never really get beat in a stand-up fight. It would never happen. He's got to have something. Odds got to be turned in his favor. But
that's what the kryptonite was for.
Exactly, and that's it showed the brilliance of Batman. He's always been smart. He's always been calculated. That's why he was so big and key in forming the Justice League.
Yeah,
on screen.
But it was brutal when Batman tied his legs up and he was dragging him,
bro,
to finish him off.
That workout,
Batman, bro.
It was brutal, man. Listen, he had him tied to one of his zip lines.
Yeah,
he was flinging it, dude. That's why I said to myself this time. I said, dude, that workout did him good because you know, Superman, he's a very dense object.
Yeah,
he's the Man of Steel, so he's tossing some weight there, man. You know, but it was so good, man. It was so brilliant. I thought it was well done, and then he even captured. He gave the fight and the creation of Doomsday an introduction of that character. He put his own little spin on it, and I like that. And he gave it enough time. And I love that he introduced, because he dies at the hands of Doomsday in the story. It happens.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether the particulars and the specifics are the same, exactly doesn't matter. This is what I don't get that people don't get. You have these comic books and so many things that are written on pages or even done in animated series. Whenever you do something live action, to make it work, to make it made manifest, there are always going to be rewrites. There are always going to be different flares and spins put on something, don't you think?
Yeah.
And sometimes those rewrites work and they're brilliant. Marvel has made billions doing rewrites.
Yeah.
Taking very long, drawn-out, dense storylines and timelines, the Infinity Saga for one, Marvel's made billions doing rewrites and it working for them and it being successful. DC did well also. It just wasn't as received because people had this idea of what a Batman versus Superman's going to be. Missing what's actually going on behind the scenes, missing what Zack Snyder's setting up for the Justice League. And the rewrites that he did to make that work, I thought were great.
Well, we'll never get to see Darkseid.
Nope. Well, we did.
Well, we did,
but
I'm
just
saying
not the fight.
Yeah.
I mean, how about the fact that did you know that he wasn't even in the regular Justice League?
Darkseid?
Yeah.
Dang.
I think if I remember correctly, they referenced him and they showed like one scene, like nothing like this. You could actually say he was in the Justice League Snyder Cut enough to call him actually in the movie. But not in the original.
So did he show up at like the end or something? You know how they do like that.
I don't even remember. It was that forgettable, dude. For a minute, I wanted to believe that he wasn't in it at all. But, man, this has been great, dude. At least we got to talk a little bit about this.
Yeah.
I wanted my voice to be heard on this stuff, man. I'm a Superman fan. I'm I'm a DC fan. I'm a Marvel fan. This whole you're either or bullshit. I'm sorry, forgive me. I mean, come on, dude. What is that? How about let's see these stories come to life?
Yeah, I mean, it's all good.
I don't want it to be a money machine, no, and I don't want them to churn them out one after another. But here's the thing. I got to say this, and I'll share my little anecdote, and you can give me your thoughts on this, and we will wrap it up, man. This has been so much fun. We have a part 2 coming. It's going to be easy to cover, right?
Yeah.
The next one, we got a lot of specifics, too. We haven't even gotten into the history of Marvel, which is great. We'll say this. The first Marvel comic, 1939. Do you know who the first character was they introduced?
No.
The Human Torch. Yep.
Wow.
The
He's
Human
like
Torch.
the most forgettable character now.
I know, right? But they don't really count. Marvel didn't really get big until the 1961. They call it the real Marvel era when Stan Lee came into the picture, Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
And oh man, that was the heyday. And introduced it with Fantastic Four, which you love the Fantastic Four.
When you said Human Torch, I'm thinking of Deadpool.
Dude, that was so great, man. They really knocked on the Human Torch character so well.
Yeah.
Man. It was great. But I want to say this. I do not believe, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that there is some element of something called superhero fatigue. I'm so tired of hearing those buzzwords though, because I'm sure there's some degree of that going on, that there is a dynamic of that. But I don't think that's what exactly is going on. I think that some people are tired of seeing poor superhero films done on screen. That you can tell when it's been just rushed, poorly written, maybe the wrong choice of director, wrong choice of art direction, wrong vision. There have been some choices on that. I believe they've played the multiverse idea into the ground. I loved what Deadpool and Wolverine did, making a bit out of the whole damn thing. I liked it. That was a good movie. And there's just different things that people like, they're just tired of seeing, and I get it. But there's not enough, in my opinion, bad superhero adaptations to form such a strong opinion. What I think is going on more than anything, Mike, and you can tell me what you think, is not so much superhero fatigue as it is that the things that we have got to experience, the things that we saw happen, what I believe really started the revolution was what Tim Burton accomplished with the 1989 Batman. That started a revolution. And then you saw the things that followed. You had Batman Returns. And then just two great Tim Burton Batman films. First one, better than the second one, but still that great dark Batman tone with Tim Burton, doing his thing. Then you had the jokey Batman Forever, the Joel Schumacher
I
era.
like that one. I like that one.
Yeah, they're fun.
George Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney in the
Arnold
fourth one, Batman
Schwarzenegger.
and Robin, but that was the Joel Schumacher phase. And it was fun. It was good for what it was. And then you had what I would like to say as the point of reference, the marker. It's a marker in time where we realized what was really possible and what was going to happen, man. People want to see these heroes on screen. We're realizing what's possible. Then you had Blade come out in 98. Then you had X-Men come out in 2000. Then X-Men X2, United, X-Men Last Stand. And then it's just going up from there. And we're seeing all these things. Some of them were great. Some of them were not so good. Some of them were just okay. But the point is, we saw what was possible.
Yeah.
And then as you get further and further along, the MCU comes. The inception of probably one of the greatest achievements cinematically on screen, what Marvel has done with the MCU, with those first 22 films.
Yeah.
You got to give them their due. They accomplished an amazing feat. There's no debating that. But what's happened is, I believe that what we've seen demonstrated has become so commonplace that people have gotten so familiar with it that just seeing a supernatural thing happen, a superhero doing some amazing thing, seeing superpowers demonstrated with great visual effects and maybe a halfway decent story, it's not enough anymore, because that, to use a word you used before, that wow factor is not there anymore. And that's what's got to be restored. I think that if they would take their time, I believe that the opinions would change. The problem is I think that people are too familiar with it, and you're going to have to do more if you want to capture the awe and the wonder and the imagination of people. If you're just doing stuff and people can tell that you're just doing the money machine, you're trying to, look, I know that it's going to be about money to a degree no matter what, always. But if you've gotten away from that thing in the beginning, I ain't gonna lie, I almost gonna choke up on this right here, for real. People, it used to be about this, Mike. It used to be about this. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can make this come to life on screen. Let's see if we can make this childhood memory happen. Let's see if we can make it flesh out. Let's see what we can accomplish on this green screen. Can you imagine if we saw this fight happen here? People have been wanting to see that forever. Like it's gotten away from that.
Yeah.
And if you would come back to that, and it not just be solely about money and doing another installment of this, let's do one more of this, then maybe the masses' opinions would change.
Yeah, people just they probably just lost their passion for it. And what I was about to say.
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much, making you lose your thought, man. But you agree with me on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was about to say, but yeah.
You think it has like something to do with that though, like just that it's too commonplace?
Yeah, it was something you told me a while ago. You said after, was it Infinity War, the last movie?
Yes.
They should have just took a break.
Yes.
And they would have took a break and just cook. You know what I'm saying? Just write a good script.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then release. Maybe take 2 years off, and then release some movies. Then the MCU, that's what they call it now, would have been good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great, man. I wish that, it's not like they were going to be hurting, but I know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's the dollar signs. We made all these billions. We got to do it. Let's do it. Let's strike while the iron's hot. Look, the iron ain't going nowhere. The heat's freaking there, dude. You're not going to lose anything. Just stand back, take a break, realize what you've accomplished. I don't think people fully realized what they did, what the Russo brothers were able to do to cap off what was stirring, what had been in the making for years, ever since Iron Man 2008, and then the Incredible Hulk later that year. What they started there, what they capped off. If they'd have just sat back and realized what they did, I mean, dude, to this day there are TikTok videos of people like commenting on the impact of, a kid seeing Iron Man die, and what that meant, and the sacrifice that he made, the callback to the conversation that he had with Cap in the first one, where he said, "You're never, are you, when it comes down to your life on the line, are you ever the guy to make the decision?" Remember that he was giving him a hard time, and then he called him a test tube baby. It was so funny. It was a science project, basically a test tube baby. But yeah, dude, I wish they'd have done that, man. But anyway, that's all we've got to say about that, what I've got to say about that in this episode. I really want to tell a story, but I tell you what, I'm going to save it. You'll have to come back for part 2. I promise I will begin the episode, part 2. I will let Mike have the floor for sure if he wants it first. Mike sometimes just let me go on and on and on because he knows I'll just keep going and ramble. And
well, I'm barely awake, so
yeah, he's tired. Our Mike's tired. He's just letting me go. It's that cup of coffee for me, man. And I've been so amped up about doing this, discussing this, man. So, but he's got a lot. We've both got a lot to discuss specifically in the next episode. We're going to talk Marvel, and gosh, we're so excited about it. But I will start off with my anecdote about the Man of Steel in 2013. And where I saw it, because it was not in America that I saw it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, this is the Real Cine-Files. We appreciate your support. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation. We always enjoy doing this. We love bringing you the content. We're getting ready to stream. Again, don't forget, we're going to have a giveaway. So you're obligated to come to our live stream if you even want to see what you're getting. We promise you it won't be a $5 Walmart gift card. But anyway, like, subscribe, and share. If you like what you're seeing, share it with your friends. When you subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell notification. And also check out our Spotify. We're really trying to grow our audience there. It's kind of meager right now. Our YouTube is getting bigger and bigger, but our Spotify is just kind of sitting there. But if you like the audio thing, you can always watch a video, man. I tell you what, go check out our Spotify. But we appreciate you joining us for this. And did you have anything else, Mike?
Nah.
Okay. So until then, remember, keep your towels and your sheets handy. Keep them fresh. Keep them red. Use your capes. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Real Cine-Files signing out. We'll see you next time. What is wrong with me?